Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Naker Nibblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And this podcast, I'm going to go over the most puzzling players league wide as submitted by the Apples and Genos Discord server. Let's get it. Welcome on in, everyone. We got a guest that's going to be joining us in a few minutes, but I want to say hello to the people. We've got comments in here already. PB Stars, we back. Let's get it, Nate. That's what we do. Laugh in here, looking for the best hold in terms of faceoffs and points. Frost, Kulich, or Pinto. What say you? Interesting. I honestly, I don't play in any faceoff leagues, so I just don't think about the stat that much. It is like I would say it's a relatively common format. I don't know if it's like the most common format to have face-offs in your categories leagues or have some sort of points weight. I feel like it's a tough thing to regulate because you really have to play around it a lot. Let's figure out where these guys rank. I'm just trying to get a feel. So Coolidge, over the last 7 games, ranked 67th in face-offs, won. What's Frost at here? He's up at 36th. And then Pinto was the last one. Pinto's at 50. Interesting spot. Yeah, and Frost going to a new team could change things around. Um, I think I'd go Frost, but it's definitely not a slam dunk. Like you're obviously into the streamer territory here, and so you're looking for a hold. Frost has a good chance. Coolish has a good chance to score more points, but also like he's only been in this role for a very short period of time, and so how confident are you that he'll hold there the rest of the season? I think Coolidge has the most upside, and Frost is the uh, best floor, if that makes sense. I like Pinto too. They've all got interesting pieces to their games for sure in their situations. Skateful Dead is in here. Lost Ones is in here. Toronto Dave is in here. Matt is in here as well. You never answered Blake's question on the waiver wire show. If his crossing the streams story deserved a 7 out of 10, what rating would you give it? Well, I thought that the entire time that he was telling the story, I thought that it was going to go in a very different direction. Especially when he started talking about Elias Pettersson holding the stick. I assumed that that's where we were going with the crossing the streams, but it went a different way. I think I was just kind of reeling from what I thought was going to be, some damage control that I was going to have to do in the moment. But no, it was definitely a banger. It was at least a 7 of 10 for sure. Blake never disappoints on those. Jordan's in here. Dorofiev or Drouin in a banger points league. Yeah, I've said in the past that I was like pretty confident that Drouin was going to be on the top line with McKinnon, top power play, top line for quite some time, and then of course the very next game, it's Lehkonen in that spot. Drouin still maintained a spot on the top power play. I still think that's relatively safe because Middlestad has seemed to fall out of favor, as has Ross Colton, and Nichushkin's still out for some time. It sounds like, but yeah, losing that top line deployment. I think Dorofiev is probably the more talented player, I would say, but based on the stuff that I look at, he's held on to power play time for a long time now. I might go Dorofiev, to be honest. I think Dorofiev has more upside, so let's go that route. WebPG87, hey Nate, is Veronkov better than Huberto, Coronado, McMichael rest of season? I can put a waiver claim, but saw Marchenko just went down. Um, it is a question now. Marchenko is undoubtedly the top guy in that group, and so it's a real question. I would take Voronkov still over Huberto and Coronado. McMichael is one that we're going to talk about. He's been getting some run here as of late, getting top power play back, playing with PLD and Protas in the last game. I think I would still keep Voronkov, but it's getting much closer for sure. And Ricky here, comfortably first in my Cacuffle League. Congrats. I traded Zucker, Bratt, and Sanderson for Batherson and Kaprizov. Curious about your thoughts. Thanks for your input. I think if you've got the buy locked down, you hear me talk about this all the time. You got to lock down the buy. The buy is the best thing you can do for yourself to give yourself the best chance of actually winning your league. And so, if you feel really comfortable that you have the buy locked down at this point, then I don't mind it. But if you're still kind of teetering on the edge of that, then I would still be feeling a little uncomfy with it. But yeah, hopefully Kaprizov, everything is fixed and he's good to go closer to the minimum time frame. If he is, then it's probably a win. If he's not, then it's probably a loss because obviously Bratt is a big piece there. CG saying great content. While you're here, everybody, click like on the video. Leave us a comment, do something to interact with the post, gets eyeballs on it. I see our good friend waiting in the wings here. I'm going to bring him on now. Gugsy, welcome to the stream, my friend. It's good to have you. How's it going tonight?
Hello, everyone. Sorry about my lateness. Is my mic working here? I'm a bit of a mess.
It's working. You're a little quiet, but it's working.
Perfect. How's that sound?
That sounds great, buddy.
Beautiful. I'm excited to be here, everyone. It's been a while. I was just shoveling some snow, so a little tired, but you know what? Let's do this thing. Nate, this is the first time we've done a podcast together. Can you believe that?
I know we've talked plenty of times, just through chatting back and forth in Discord, but also we've had some chats here and there. But yeah, to finally get on a pod together, I'm glad that we're finding this random Monday in February when there's snow to be shoveled to get this done.
Beautiful, yeah. You know what? Us in Vancouver, we're not used to this snow. I don't know how you Ontarians do it. This is fucking miserable. It's awful. My back hurts. But you know what? I'm here to get this party started. I'm looking forward to this. Been looking forward to this all weekend.
All right. Yeah, it's been a long winter in that regard for sure. I gave up for a couple of weeks because it was ridiculous. We were getting just a centimeter or two every day it felt like, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it'll melt off. And then we went into a 2 or 3 week cold snap, and then it just all sat there, and then I felt really bad about it. And yeah, here we are. I'm still trying to dig our driveway out of out of the snow that it's under, but let's get back into it here. We got some more comments. Josh Mayer says, love you. Appreciate that. I think that's got to be for you, Gugs. Yeah, that's not
Oh,
for
thank
me.
you. Thank you, Josh.
That came in as soon as you joined, so for sure. CG 12 team points weekly locked. Best fourth defenseman Riley, Burns, Letang, or Forsling. Asking for rest of season. I don't know. This is a tough one. Let's kick you off with this tough one here, Guggen. What do you got? Riley, Burns, Letang, or Forsling? 12 team points. You got to lock it in weekly.
Okay, let me just see here. You know what? I'm gonna give it to Riley just because I still don't I don't know if how long this 5 forward power play is going to last, and I just think that even though he's been absolute poo poo this entire year, come on, he's not as bad as what we're seeing. Although I do like Brent Burns as far as his shot metrics go. Gustav Forsling, I feel like, is always a better real life defenseman than fantasy defenseman, depending on your peripherals, depending on your league. And Letang, it's a bangers kind of guy. So I would go Riley there. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't think you're winning your league with this choice in
Absolutely
any
not.
direction, right? But man, they just came out. We're gonna get into it with Carolina here, but they just came out with new power play lines too. Gostisbehere and Svechnikov on one unit, and then everybody else on another unit, and so and Burns was on that unit with Aho, Rantanen, Jarvis, everybody else. So that's given me some pause here, trying to figure out what that means. Man, I think I would go Riley. Final answer.
Ooh,
I don't feel confident about it though. I think it's fair. There's a reason you're talking about all four of these guys in the same sentence, right? They all feel pretty similar. Um, yeah, they all feel pretty similar. All right, back to the comments. Sam's in here. What move do I make now? Lost Norris, Tage, and Marchenko yesterday. Not to mention had Dobson and Gunther on IR. Wow, that is a tough look. Norris, Tage, and Marchenko. Sam, if you're still in the chat, you want to give us, it matters for sure how much you have in terms of IR plus spots, like if you can actually fit them all in IR plus. If you're looking for who you should be dropping, you got to keep Tage. I think, Gunther is supposed to be back sometime this week, so hopefully that frees up a spot for you and you can kind of swap one in, swap one out in that regard. Um, yeah, you got to keep Tage. Norris would be the first drop if you have to make a drop there. And then Dobson and Marchenko, their timelines are pretty long. Yeah, it's between those two for sure. Two IR spots and one IR plus, so you can fit three of them. All right. Um, yeah, that is a tough situation. So yeah, you're definitely. I think Tage is going to be okay. First of all, like I think the day to day was just because he left the game and he didn't come back in
I mean,
Yahoo.
coach said he'd be okay, right? It wasn't too
Yeah,
bad of a thing, yeah.
yeah. So it sounded hopeful at least. Like he cleared the initial protocol, whatever they have in house for the um, whatever they have in house for the concussion protocol. It sounds like he cleared that kind of immediately. So as long as he doesn't, develop any new symptoms, then I think that he should be fine. Um, yeah, I think it's got to be. You got to hold Dobson and Marchenko in the long term IR. Gunther will be back this week. You can fit Tage into the IR plus for the moment. I think you can drop Norris. That's where I'm at.
I agree with that.
All right, Blake's in here saying that Guggs is an absolute dreamboat.
Hell yeah.
CG agrees, it sounds like. Um,
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Love it.
nice. Let's get back to comments. I'm trying to find where I was before. We get lots going on here, and I love it. Frank was asking, is Granlund worth rostering as a fourth C, RW, or LW now that he is with Dallas? Um, yeah, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot for all of them, right? I don't think it's going to be more of the same now with Dallas. They got Marchment back at the exact same time, so now they're like, oh, we have like a full top nine again. They came out with new lines in practice again today, Dallas did, and it's again like just throw everything into the blender and see what comes out. You got Stankoven in the best deployment he's seen in a long time with Robertson and Hintz. You got Marchment, Duchesne, Granlund. You got Ben Johnson, Dodonov. Yeah, it's just like throw all these guys together and let's see what we can do here. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about Granlund. I've been talking about this for a while, that it seemed like he was probably, going to go to a team like this where he wouldn't be as prioritized as he was
Definitely.
in San Jose. So it does seem like that's what's coming true for Mikael Granlund here. I was just going to check what he got. Yeah, he got 16 minutes, 40 seconds in that first game against Columbus. That's kind of what I expect. How about you, Gugsy? What do you think about Granlund there? Do you expect, like, definitely no more 21-minute treatment, but
No.
what do you think?
You know what? I loved a bangers category. I love bangers cats guys, and Granlund was such a nice surprise at the beginning of the year. You get him at like no draft value at all. He was pretty much free, and I was actually hoping that he wouldn't get traded because San
Yeah.
Jose. San Jose had all its retention spots taken up, so I'm actually surprised that they traded him at full, salary. But I just don't think he's going to get the minutes, is my opinion, and
Yeah.
a streamer at best.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. CG was also noting Burns on power play one today in practice. Yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence that sticks. Cost to spare in my mind is far more effective. So Matt says, fortunate to be in a spot I'm choosing between Ekholm and Doughty as my fifth D. Who would you take? I'm definitely taking Doughty there. Gets power play one. Ekholm has not had a great year. I think he might be dealing with a little bit of an underlying injury potentially. So yeah, I'm definitely taking Doughty there. I think that's pretty conclusively. I would go that route. Steez E, wondering your thoughts on a trade proposal in a 15-team points bangs league. Hagel and Wallman for Boldy. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that the Minnesota playoff schedule is factoring into this, because Hagel has kind of outperformed Boldy on the season so far, and Wallman thrown in on top of that. That's not an insignificant piece. But so say you're a contender here, Guggen. If you've got Matt Boldy, would you trade away Matt Boldy, knowing full well that he's got that good playoff schedule, and get Hagel plus Wallman?
That's rough. That's tough for me.
Hmm.
My big concern is what's happening with Kaprizov, because Boldy without Kaprizov, he hasn't really been doing it for me as much as I would have liked it. I think it depends on where you're at for defense, because Hagel, he's a beauty. Wallman, I like Wallman. I think he's a bit underrated. I didn't see him being as effective as he is this year. If you need the defenseman, I would do it just because I think there's a risk that Kaprizov, maybe he's going to be rested until the real playoffs. Maybe he's going to be a step below what we want from him. It depends on your risk tolerance.
Yeah.
Let's see, what's the 15-team league? I assume defense comes at a premium, so
Right.
I would lean towards making this trade. Get rid of Boldy, get Wallman, get Hagel.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that, even though Matt Boldy is one of my guys. Mr. Kevin, been holding tip all year, but I'm firmly top 3 in default Yahoo playoffs. Philadelphia, meh schedule, no other roster room. Is it okay to drop him for a streamer spot? I think it's okay. I think he's probably going to have another week or two, or, 5-game stretch or 6-game stretch somewhere where you're like, man, I can't believe I dropped Owen Tippett. But yeah, when push comes to shove, I don't think Owen Tippett is going to be the reason you lost in your playoffs. And so if that does help you, solidify like a bye or solidify your playoff spot or whatever you need to do, I say get it done. I'm not going to be too mad about that. Armin's in here. Chris is in here. CG wants Blake to be careful that he may lose his crossing the streams partner. We can discuss that offline.
I haven't
Megan.
crossed streams with Blake in a while. I'm
Ooh,
I'm interested, Blake. Let's cross those streams. DM me,
yeah.
baby.
Armin says, love to hear your guesstimates on who comes back sooner between Barlow, Kaprizov, Marchenko, Heiskanen, Dobson. Oh, good grief, man! This is like the most impossible question. Um, I think I think that Kaprizov is probably the guy who comes back the fastest, and this is literally just based on the fact that I think Kaprizov is that dude, and Minnesota is gonna need him, and they're gonna be hanging around a playoff spot and gonna need him to come back as fast as possible. Yeah, that's what I'll go with. I don't have like some of these we don't even have like great information on. Like
Yeah.
Marchenko, the estimates were like all out there 4 weeks, 6 weeks that I saw. Barzal's just indefinitely. Like we don't know if he broke a bone. We don't know if it's like there's nothing that I saw. Yeah, I don't know if you got anything better than that guy.
No, I'm on the same boat. Who knows? It's
Yeah,
tough. I would lean towards Dobson because he's had more time off compared to everyone else.
true.
But you know what? The NHL, no one tells you anything. And on another note, were you as angry as me that Marchenko got his face broken from being on the bench? Like,
Yeah,
what awful luck. This is your boy, too. This is your
yeah.
guy. And he gets a puck to the face, and he's done for I hope not the year. One of my buddies says he's done for the years, but he's kind of a shit stirrer, so I don't know.
Yeah, it sounded like yeah, they're just random people talking about what the procedure was going to be, and that hopefully what he's going through is potentially going to be a little less significant in terms of like, yeah, he can come back, maybe play with a bubble or something like that, and get back in the mix, in like 4 weeks instead of like 6 weeks, or miss the rest of the regular season. So hopefully that's true. It is speculation season on
Yeah.
Twitter right now for
Yeah.
sure.
Everyone's panicking and losing their mind. This is like a lot of fantasy managers like gem of the year, this Marchenko fellow, and to lose him like this just hurts.
Yeah, yeah, that does hurt for sure. Chris was saying regarding Granlund, still worthwhile in a plus minus league. Depends. 10-team league, definitely not. 12-team league, you're right on the borderline, in my opinion. Probably streamer, right on the streamer borderline. 14-team league, I don't think he's a hold at all. So probably somewhere in that range. Let's keep going with the comments here. We got more and more rolling in, and I love it. I don't gotta make sure that I'm doing this in order. I'll never find where I'm back, where I've got the list going. Andrew says, getting a guy back from IR got to drop either Cam Fowler or Shane Gostisbehere. Concerned about a team like St. Louis, but also concerned about Shane's due deployment. Thanks for your thoughts. Throw this one to you, Gagan. What do you got?
Yeah, Goss Despair, they brought him in for a reason, and he's good at one thing, and that's the power play. I think right now they're just figuring out how Rantanen fits into the system. I think sooner or later, once the Leafs settle down, Goss Despair is going to be on a true power play one with Rantanen, with the big boys. But, you know, Rod can experiment. He has the luxury of the standings. They're a contender. They can mess with the lines a little bit before it's time to get serious. Whereas Cam Fowler, I mean, last I checked, is still Falk on power play one, isn't it?
They've been splitting units. They've been doing some different stuff there. Yeah, it's been Cam Fowler versus Justin Falk thing. Like in the last game, they've been doing like the Kairu Shen Neighbors Holloway situation on one side, and then Sunquist, Buchnevich, Thomas Texier on another. So it is like true split units, and Fowler's
Yeah.
on one and Falk's on the other.
So with both teams, you kind of have to deal with split units regardless. So in that situation, where's the most talent? And I think Carolina has the most talent, and I'd heavily go Gostisbehere on that. I'm much more comfortable dropping Fowler compared to Gostisbehere. You bought him for one reason, and that's the power play. I strongly think he's getting on a true power play sooner or later. It's just how's Rantanen going to settle?
Yeah, I think that's a good take. I think that with Fowler, it's like, what do you win if you win? Like, I think we've already seen the best stretch of his season, the first few games when he was there in St. Louis and he was popping off. Um, yeah, in the last 5 games, he has no points for St. Louis. It's not like he's hot at the moment. You're missing out on current production or something like that. You're not getting anything from either of these guys at the moment. So I would go with the talent, and I would go with Goss there. Chris Corbin misses early season ghost. Yeah, everybody
Me too.
does. Again, I'm gonna say it. If you draft Shane Gostisbehere or you pick him up, like this is the ride you're signing up for
Yeah.
all season long. You're gonna look up at the end of the year and you'll be like, "Hey, he had 55 points. He was pretty good." And you're, but all the way through, you're gonna be like, "What do I do with this guy every single week?"
He's
So
streaky. He's streaky. You
that's
know
how
what?
it
Next
goes.
time, for next time, if he starts out gangbusters again at the beginning of the year, sell high because it's coming. The cold streaks always they come. Winter is
Yep.
coming, so sell high next year.
Winter's coming even to BC. We've got Ian in here. I have Darlene, Yossi, Morrissey, Middleton, Romanov as a decor after trading away picks for Yossi. Would you move Morrissey for White Johnston? Looking to optimize week 22 through 24 schedule. Banger Cats. Um, yeah, I don't mind that move. That seems about roughly equivalent. I'm pretty high on Johnson. I know that they came out with these new lines, but he's actually, even when they had the full top nine, he was getting the 19-minute treatment. Like on the season, I'll throw him in the sheet here so he can have a quick gander at it. But um, on the last 5 games, he's got 19 minutes. On the season, he's got even a little bit more than that, around 19, 15. So, yeah, I think Wyatt Johnston is a big target. He's obviously on fire right now, 8 points in his last 5. So, yeah, I don't mind that. How about you, Guggen? Would you trade Morrissey for Wyatt Johnston?
Yeah, you're pretty damn settled for defense.
Yeah.
I agree with you. At the beginning of the year, I didn't want to touch Dallas players, but you know what? They're all buy lows. You called it, Nate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you called it. I was a bit upset at my Dallas shares, but Wyatt Johnson's looking like the real deal. Um, you're in a bangers league as well, so having Romanov and Middleton to really even up and shore up your third and fourth D for bangs, getting that extra piece of offense on your forwards, I think you'd have a really nice, well-rounded team for playoffs.
Yeah, I like that there for sure. Jordan asks, who would you bench tomorrow out of Russ versus New Jersey, Terry versus Dallas, Schmaltz versus Philadelphia, standard Yahoo Points League? I'm finding it hard to bench Rust. Terry was out with the illness, so you might have that decision made for you if he can't go tomorrow. Schmaltz versus Philadelphia, it's a decent spot there. Um, yeah, it might be Troy Terry. Just wondering if he's at 100%, even if he does go. Depends on the illness, right? We never get I mean, do we really want more details on what kind of illness it was? But there's a wide range here. It could be like he was like totally blocked up and he like couldn't breathe, but otherwise he was fine. Or like, he was puking his guts out and he like lost 10 pounds in 2 days and he's gonna be like absolutely terrible when he steps out there. So there's a wide range here. I think I would keep Rust in the lineup for sure, and then it's a bit more of a toss-up between Terry and Schmaltz. With Terry, missing the game there on Sunday, I think I would just kind of default to Schmaltz there. You got a different opinion,
No,
Gugsy?
I totally agree. I'd prefer Schmaltz, not only with Terry's illness, but Dallas is a bit better defensive team than Philadelphia. Philadelphia seems like a bit of a tire fire. I don't know what's happening there, so I'd rather Schmaltz against Philadelphia than Terry against Dallas.
Yeah. Armin says, should I drop Pospisil for Matt Roy if I need D in blocks? Standard Cats League with hits plus minus and blocks. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Matt Roy has actually been doing a little better. He hasn't had like the smoothest transition, I'll say, to Washington. He's been injured at points too. So, and obviously you got John Carlson, you got Jacob Chikrin there as well. So they're actually pretty set on D. But Matt Roy, even in LA, he was pretty useful even when there was no power play time to be had. Also asking Kent Johnson value to the moon with Marchenko out about a month at least. I don't know if it's to the moon, but it should give him the Fantilli Voronkov top line. So yeah, I think Kent Johnson was like overproducing to this point. Blake and I did. We talked about Kent Johnson on the show yesterday, so you can go back and check that one out. But yeah, I think he was kind of overproducing. Now maybe he has a chance to kind of like maintain a higher point rate than we would have thought possible moving forward. So that's kind of where I'm at. How do you feel about it, Guggen?
Kate Johnson's analytics look disgusting. 33.3% shooting in his last 5 games. But yeah, maybe his role is going to be maybe a little bit different with Marchenko out. I don't mind it. Roll the dice. If you have no other moves, this week sucks for streaming anyways. And if you have no other ads to make, why not add him, see where it goes? Maybe you'll strike gold. But looking at his analytics, gross. But who knows? A lottery ticket, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Chris, I have Panarin and Zibby. Come to realize how bad New York Rangers playoff schedule is. Who do you think might be a decent target for trade? Ooh, that is tough. Zibanejad finally having a resurgence here. Maybe you can actually get something for him for the first time all year long, and I wouldn't hate that. However, I don't know how good it's really going to be. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Wyatt Johnson. I'd love to, if you have to add something to Mika Zibanejad to get a Wyatt Johnson, I'd happily do that. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I find these questions are the hardest for me to just like off the top of the dome, just like give a bunch of answers. Philip Forsberg, potential option. Nashville has a decent playoff schedule. Who else could there be? I'm just literally scrolling names, trying to think up a few others. But yeah, at least a few names there for you. Forsberg is one. And then Wyatt Johnson is another. Who else we got? Tage Thompson. If somebody is not feeling so great about that, you could move that direction. Buffalo has a pretty decent schedule as well. So at least a few ideas for you to get started there. WMW Animations, thoughts on Fantilli? Is his performance lowered because of Marchenkster? I think it has to be, right? Like, Marchenko, in my mind, was kind of the engine of that line in a lot of ways. And so you can't lose that without it being a significant drop. However, I will say Fantilli has been like kind of steadily improving on his own over the last number of games, and the underlying numbers kind of support that. So I do think that Fantilli can be really useful. I mean, over the last 5 games, he's averaging over 21 minutes a night, so he's not lacking for opportunity. I don't know. What do you think, Gagan? Do you think that Fantilli can keep it up, and to what level? Like, are we talking he's been point per game? Can he keep that up, or are we a little bit lower than that? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, playing with Marchenko obviously is a boon to anyone. This is only his Fantilli's second year. I think he's a hell of a talent, and as you said, his analytics look amazing. But he is losing a huge asset in Marchenko.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'd hold. Who knows if they depend on him a bit more, but I wouldn't expect him to keep up as good of a performance now that Marchenko is out.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Mr. Kevin, I've also held Dostal all year. You confident that if Gibson doesn't get traded again, that Dostal hogs the starts down the stretch like last year? I'm not confident about anything in Anaheim, honestly. Like every time I feel like I've got a read on the situation, Greg Cronin steps in and does his thing again. So, yeah, I don't feel confident about anything going on there. Really, it does seem like Troy Terry, Frank Vetrano have been getting the most deployment, and that seems to be fairly consistent over the last, I don't know, 20 games or so. But that is kind of the only thing that I feel somewhat secure in Anaheim at the moment. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I hate Anaheim as a team for fantasy, especially with Cronin. You just never know. Yeah, you never know. I'm looking forward to when this team is actually fantasy relevant because they always have the best schedule every year. But yeah, if you've held Dostal this far, you might as well keep holding, depending on your categories, how valuable goalies are. But yeah, do you think Gibson's gonna get traded?
I think it's definitely possible. There's been more steam about it. Like Friedman has talked about it on the 32 Thoughts podcast, which is about as good as information as we can get for hockey purposes. Yeah, I guess just like looking across the league, there are definitely other goaltenders that I'd be a little bit more confident in. Moving forward, like Dostal is rostered 38% on Yahoo. Merzlikins is 37%. I would definitely take Merzlikins. I might even take Samuel Urson from Philadelphia just because I think he's going to get volume rest of season. Nedeljkovic has been really good as of late. Cam Talbot was around there for a bit. He started to go up because he's been really good the last few outings. Yeah, there's just other names out there that I would definitely consider and probably take over Dostal moving forward. So, yeah, I don't think you have to hang on to Dostal, basically.
Yeah.
Chris Corbin, did I miss the Yossi sadness section yet? No, we're getting there. We're getting there for sure. Really confused about Lankinen. Wonder if he's worth a hold. Yeah, I don't know if you got a better beat on what's going on there, but it's been the last little bit. It was 2 on, 2 off. Then Lankinen, in the last game, he goes out there and I think it was 3 goals against on 18 shots, and he
Yeah.
loses 3-2 to Detroit. It was a weird look in that game. What do you think?
Yeah, it's rough. It's frustrating because I think Lankinen has been a way better goalie than Demko, but Demko has been like the face between the pipes for the Canucks for so long. So I think Tocchet is just giving him a lot more starts than he deserves out of loyalty. It's frustrating because Lankinen has a good game, like a really good game, and then Demko comes in for like one or two games after that. Um, Again, we just made a huge trade. I think the players need to learn how the new players play in Tocchet's system. I still like Lankinen. I prefer Lankinen over Demko. Demko hasn't shown me anything impressive lately. As much as I hate to say it, because I'm a stan for Demko, he's a beast. It's just this year has been rough on him. I would hold him. I would hold Lankinen. It's tough in a points league though when you don't get those starts. If you're fighting for playoffs, yeah, I could see the argument, but I personally would hold him if you're able to.
Yeah, I think Leggett definitely has more of an argument in like categories leagues, especially if you got an emphasis
Yeah.
on rate stats because he has been good, relatively speaking. I think Vancouver, hopefully, with the trade, gets their wheels rolling and starts to do some good things. Marcus Pettersson can't hurt things on the back end as well. So, yeah, overall, I'm hopeful at least that things get better in terms of the game to game production for the goaltenders, both of them really. But I do think, like, my read on it at the moment is that Demko is 1A and Lankinen is 1B rest of season. It's probably going to be pretty tight in terms of start percentage. 55-45, something in that range is my best guess at this point, and it is just that. It is just a guess. But if it is that, then yeah, in like points leagues, there's going to be lots of weeks where you're only getting one start out of the player, and I'm not really interested in holding goaltenders, that is, who are just getting one start a week here and there, and that's not worth the roster spot basically in my mind in a lot of leagues. So that's my take there. Take it for what it's worth. Drewski has no one going today. That is tough. It is a tough night in the NHL when you're like there's only one game on, and like I don't want to like diss these teams too bad, but like it's kind of a nothing game, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a nothing game and it's 0-0 after the first period. Like what are we doing here? NHL, help us out, please.
Yeah.
I keep going through these comments. Gomer Jackson, hey boys, looks like Laine has super reduced minutes. Doesn't look like he had any legs last game. Drop. Thanks, by the way. Yeah, it's been a tough run the last little bit. I don't know actually how far back this goes. We could throw Patrick Laine in the sheet here for a second and get a quick look. Patrick Laine, I think that's how you spell it. Yeah, one assist last five, under 15 minutes, average time on ice, 146 shots per 60, 352 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. He's played 24 games now, 12 goals, 18 points. The shots were better before. His scoring chances have not been good at any point. Really, it's just been the power play, right? He's been
Yeah.
bombing on the power play, and the pucks have been going in. Yeah, he's shooting 19.7% to get to this point so far. I did think that there was some regression coming. I think the big problem is he has no one to play with
Yeah.
at even strength, right? It really has to come through the power play, and coming through the power play is not a recipe for like sustained fantasy success in my mind. How do you feel about it, Guggen?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. When he was like having a goal or two per game on the power play, obviously we were going to see some regression. He's the definition of a power play merchant this year. He hasn't been doing it on even strength, and yeah, as you said, he's playing with Kirby Doc and Alex Newhook at even strength. You can't expect too much with that, unfortunately. Yeah, it value over replacement. I don't know how many teams are in your league. I don't know what your wire looks like. If you can, get someone who has better even strength deployment along with a power play one spot, I'd go for there. I need a little bit more info on that end, but yeah, I don't expect the world out of Line A. His analytics look absolutely dreadful.
Yeah. I think that's a good take there. Frank says slim pickings for D, Truba, or Romanov. Yeah, that is slim pickings for sure. I'm kind of assuming based on this question that you like have an open D slot that you're trying to fill. Otherwise, I don't think you're going out to add a fifth defenseman, to put on your bench and like filter into your lineup. Then Truba's off nights might be a little bit more worthwhile to you. But if you're just going off the banks, Romanov has been getting crazy minutes with Dobson out. And yeah, he provides the bangs kind of just as good as Trouba in my mind. So I think I'd go Romanov there. Kyle D, do you think Coronado, McMichael, and Kent Johnson are breakout candidates for the rest of year/next year? Yeah, I think they're all individually good players in their own right. If you had to rank them rest of season, Gagan, which way would you go with this trio?
Ooh, that's rough. With Calgary, their power plays have been a bit wonky, but if Coronado can
Yeah.
get that like solidified power play one spot, Calgary's also like surprisingly getting up and up. I really like Coronado. McMichael's a beast. Mike McMichael is a great player, as is Kent Johnson, but I've been really impressed watching Coronado play. Um, Kent Johnson, I see a high ceiling with him, but I have more faith in Coronado as a breakout candidate. What do you think? I think you're a McMichael guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I like McMichael. He had like a torrid start to the year, and like it was all good under the hood. Everything looked good, and then he went a little bit cold. Some regression hit for him, and then I think it's just a confidence thing. Like it all went away. He stopped shooting. I don't know. There could be underlying injury or something else going on there as well. I like McMichael. I want to see a little bit more before I, like anoint him. Coronado is getting like some pretty solid deployment. They really did prioritize the top power play unit, at least in the last game, and Coronado's a member of that with Kadri, Huberto, and Frost. Uyghur on the back end. So that's a good spot for him. He's playing with Coleman and Backlund at even strength, and that's a good spot. So yeah, I like that kind of deployment for him overall, at least in terms of raw ice time. I think McMichael and Kent Johnson are probably playing with some more talented players. I would say, like, I don't think anybody on Calgary stands out as like the talent that you want to be attached to, right, to generate a lot of scoring for fantasy purposes. So that's kind of the only part that's giving me pause. I think, yeah, if you put Coronado in the other two situations, I'd be really excited. But the other two situations are that much better in my mind at the moment. I think if I had to make this choice for myself, I think I would go I think I would go Kent Johnson, just given the season that he's having currently, the prospective move up to the top line to join Voronkov and Fantilli there for the next month at least. Yeah, I think I would go Kent Johnson, but yeah, it's razor thin between all three for me as well. Frank Marner, undisclosed injury. Yeah, he missed practice today. Yeah, we'll have to see. We don't really have any better information than that, unfortunately, at the moment. Chichi Mini, I'm in first in my league. Do you think trading Meyer and Velarde for Cap Bangers League? Interesting deal for sure. I'm gonna reiterate what I say every single time. If you have buys in your league, that's the most important thing, more than any individual player being on your team. Get the buy and kind of figure it out from there. If you're looking really pretty for that, and you're like, yeah, I can totally get myself there, even if I trade away these guys, then yeah, I think it's reasonable. Kaprizov has the potential to like actually win you those last 2 weeks of the season if you get there and you have the buy and all the rest. But yeah, it is risky, right? There is that element to it too. Like, do you need to make this move, or is this just like a really nice to have? What if things go a little bit sideways and Kaprizov's timeline lengthens out and he doesn't actually make it back in the regular season? Now all of a sudden you've traded away two pretty solid assets for nothing. Yeah, that's I think we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's kind of like how much of a risk tolerance do you have, eh, Guggen?
Yeah, I totally agree. If this is a bangers Cats, Meyer is a really difficult player to replace. Even if he's not on power play one, even if he's not always getting you the points, he shoots like a madman. He gets you your hits. He gets you your penalties. And although Cap is elite in a bangers Cats, where are you gonna get those categories from when you get rid of Meyer? Velarde is also such a stud, but I do expect him to regress from here. Velarde's I think he's due for some regression. Yeah, risk tolerance thing. If you're just destroying your bangers categories every single week, then I'd probably make this. It's risky, but this is one of those risks I'd take because Cap is such a beast. It depends on who else you got to replace Meyer for those peripheral categories. If it is a categories, I'm just assuming it's a categories.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Sorry if these players have already been discussed. Thoughts on Doughty versus DeAngelo in a 10-team bangers Cats? That's an interesting look for sure. DeAngelo does block. Like he's got at least two blocks in every game so far, the 5 games he's played there. And obviously he's getting power play one run in New York. Doughty, we all kind of know what Drew Doughty is. I think like he's not going to have some crazy high offensive ceiling, but he is instantly on the top power play. He's put up 6 shots in 3 games since he's been back, 4 hits, 1 block. Um, you know, I think we know what Doughty is. So I feel like DeAngelo could potentially outscore Doughty in terms of just scoring points, but I think Doughty probably has a little bit more all around value. What's your take there?
Yeah, I totally agree. For bangers Cats, I love Doughty way too much, and what happens when Dobson's back? If you pick up DeAngelo and Doughty goes to another team, DeAngelo's going to be absolutely useless once Dobson's back. I don't think he's going to hold power play one once Dobson's back. Assuming Dobson's back, who knows? Maybe they picked up DeAngelo because Dobson's done for the season. But bangers Cats, I prefer Doughty by far.
All right. CG weekly lock leagues suck. So much flexibility with what I'm guessing is most other leagues. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think weekly lock is
it
fairly
should be
fringe. Yeah,
awful.
that I wouldn't want to do it, to be honest. It's just like a whole different game, honestly, trying to play that every week. But
It's awful.
yeah, better rest of season hold Kopitar, Svech, or Fiala. That's an interesting
Hmm.
question. I'm going Fiala there. What about you?
Yeah, I think Fiala. I don't know what if it's your points league or whatever. I assume it's a points league, so I'd go Fiala.
All right, Justin, are you guys into Barzal or Marchenko at all? Got playoffs locked up, but tough to give up any rosterable player in a deep league. Yeah, I mean, it is probably a spot where you're not really looking to give up anybody anywhere close to the talent level of these guys because you don't really know what you're getting at this point with either player. Like, you don't know if they're back soon or they're going to be a long time away. If you've got a manager in your league who's desperate to, make the playoffs and get something, then maybe you can, offer them something that's a little bit more fringy. I think you make the offer, right? You make the offer with what you're comfortable with, and you see what comes back. Duresh asks, what do you think about Elias Pettersson rest of the season? This has got to come to you, buddy. What do you got?
God, I hope he wakes up, man. I really like the pressure is on. The guy that everyone assumes is the reason you've been sucking is gone now. Like I think with Pettersson, a lot of this is his mental game, and I hope Aquilini is getting this guy a sports psychologist. Also, with his bonitis or tendonitis or whatever, we don't know how much that is still affecting him. It's really tough to say. He's been on a little bit of a point streak lately. He's been looking better than before, but it's tough. Obviously, you can't drop him. If you have him, you're kind of stuck with him, and if you want to get rid of him and trade him, you're selling at a bit of a low. I really don't see a great situation for Pettersson holders unless he wakes the fuck up, which I really hope he does. Miller's gone. You gotta get the fire under your ass, man. You gotta get going.
Yeah, it is worth noting. Last 3 games at least, he's been getting a little bit more ice time again. Rick Talking is not a guy who really like rides the top end guys for 20 plus minutes a night, but maybe Pettersson could be the exception to that moving forward, assuming that, there's nothing else going on there that we don't really know about. I threw 4 hits in the last game, which is nice
Yep.
to see. Yeah, I think Pettersson's engaged, but yeah, it does seem like a spot where he's kind of got to get out of his own way first. And yeah, that's a really tough thing. Like the numbers don't really tell the story of what's going on between a player's ears, right? So that's the tough part of the evaluation here.
It's tough, but one thing I've noticed is for the whole season, Pettersson's been getting a ton of defensive zone starts, and now with Miller gone, I think he's going to be used a bit more offensively. Get a ton more offensive zone starts. I'm expecting more offense from him just from that alone. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Frank thinks that Pettersson would look good in an Avalanche uniform.
You
I have
shut your
no.
whore mouth.
All right. CG repping the brand here for us. 40 people on YouTube. You had 16 likes. Come on, y'all. Takes 2 seconds. Thanks for that, buddy.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Also saying, I believe this means that you're Dreamboat. That's what I'm gathering from the
Oh,
emojis
okay.
on my screen right now. I
I
wasn't
thought that
sure at
said I
first.
was boring. I was a little.
It's one or the other.
I'll take it.
it's either Dreamboat or you're actually putting them to sleep. Chris Corbett, yeah, sorry, I know it's a bad question for puzzling players. Oh, this is the Panarin Zibanejad trade question. Actually, acquired Panarin by trading Tage. Thanks. I'll look at the question. Taking the question to the Discord. Yeah. Get in the Discord. You'll definitely get some more opinions on it there. But yeah, trying to get the few names for you off the top of my head there for sure. Thoughts on Kemper and Kachekov rest of season as my goalies for playoffs? Who to target to supplement this duo? Yeah, I mentioned a few goalies already. Those are the guys that I'm kind of actively looking at. I've got Talbot and Nedeljkovic in a couple of spots, like as a tandem, and I'm like happy with that. I'm riding with it. In Kakuffel, I have Decord and Blackwood, and that's been pretty solid. These guys do come around. I think Kemper's in a good spot right now. Kachekov is probably, I haven't checked honestly what the start schedule has been like. The last time I checked, it was the true, 50-50 that
Yeah.
Carolina's been doing. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Anderson and Kachekov, one for one. So yeah, I'm not into goalies like that, man. It's tough to roster, at least in points leagues. In Cats leagues, sometimes you can get away with it, especially on a good team. But yeah, it's tough to do in points leagues. So yeah, some of the other names, Nedeljkovic, I can't remember Merzlikins if he's available. Those are the kinds of guys who might be getting a little bit more volume rest of season. That if that's beneficial to you in a points league, you might want to look that way instead of Kachekov. Says, thanks for the advice. You guys rock. Always enjoy streams. Appreciate it. Some more love from CG. Appreciate that. Tony D is on fire lately. I mean, yeah, he's got a couple points here. I don't know if it's, I don't know if I'd go straight to the fire emojis just yet. He does have a point in each of his last 2 games. I'll give
Yeah.
him that.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
All right. Pleasantly surprised. Steezy, this Hagel Wallman for Boldy trade I mentioned earlier. Should note it's a 7-keeper league where Boldy and Hagel are obviously keeper level. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine either way. Like they feel roughly equivalent as keepers at the moment anyway. I think maybe Boldy has a little bit more upside, but Hagel is getting the 21 plus minute treatment, so he's kind of making up for it in volume. Chichi Mini, who would you rather rest of season, Velarde or Coleman? Bangers points league. Yeah, the bangers does give Coleman a little bit more juice there for sure, but Velarde has just been so good in that role. I know he's overachieving, and I've mentioned it and highlighted it on this podcast a lot, but I still think Velarde is probably going to come out ahead when it's all said and done. Would you think any differently, Gaga?
No, I totally agree. Even if Velarde doesn't bang as much, the point upside is too much to ignore. I would not let go of Velarde. Keep him.
Yeah. Anders Lee overachieving on the season. You think he can keep it going to finish out the season with Barzell out? I'm thinking he's due to regress. You see it any differently? Yeah, I think he is. Barzell, it, it's really tough for New York to get anything going. They have Dobson on the back end out. They have Barzell out now indefinitely. It's going to be really tough for them to generate anything. I hope they can do it for the people who are rostering Horvat and Nelson and these guys, but realistically, I think you should expect it's going to be pretty tough for everybody. Steezy says, Beauty, thanks so much for your thoughts. Great content as always. Appreciate that. Steve is in here. Category leagues head to head. Do you typically carry 5D or hold 3 goalies? I'll throw this one to you, Gugsy. What are you typically doing there?
I think there's a lot of variables to this, and I
Yeah.
can't really give you an answer. I really can't. It's hard for me to answer this. It's as simply put with categories league, especially, it's value over replacement. If you're goalies, let's say, like, you can realistically, if you're lucky, you could have gotten Kemper, Blackwood, and let's say Jake Allen for pretty much free to no draft cap a little at all. And I wouldn't drop a single one of those guys, even though I fucking hate goalies. Those guys are giving you way too much value. And the same argument could be said of defensemen. Defensemen are usually at a premium. Let's say you got Jackson Lacombe, which was a wire pickup. Jake Wallman, which was probably a wire pickup. It's really hard to say. And you kind of just have to make your own judgments, trust your gut, and think of it as a value over replacement type of thing. If you drop one of those 3 goalies that I mentioned, who on your wire is a better replacement for one of those goalies? Same with the D-men.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have enough D-men to warrant dropping someone like Jackson Lacombe, who is a power play 1 D-man who's surprisingly good in bangers catch, but I imagine a lot of people would be tempted to drop him if they have no one else to drop. It's tough to say, man. You really gotta understand your wire. You gotta understand your opponents. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it is a tough question, and yeah, I can speak for myself too. I always say like I'm not trying to think about it this way, honestly. Like I don't think about it like, oh, I gotta hit my quota of 5D and I gotta have 3 goaltenders. Like I'm 2 to 3 goaltenders and I'm 4 to 6D in a categories league on any given week. I look at my opponents and I look at what they have in terms of their category coverage, how well they've been doing versus the league and hits, blocks, and whatever else categories you have. And then I'm trying to tailor my ads and how I'm building my team to the matchup that I'm in that week and trying to take away as many categories as possible. So, yeah, I think we're in line there. The value over replacement and what is valuable to you should vary week to week, right? Depending on your opponent and how the week is going and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I typically am not holding 3 goaltenders. I will say, like,
Yeah.
just with 0G and the way that I approach the position in general, like it's very rare that at 3 goaltenders I'm just going to be hanging on to for any length of time. It might feel pretty good if you can get to that spot and they're all actually performing, but let's be honest, what's the likelihood that any 3 goaltenders are going to be performing on your roster for a set amount of time at the same time, right? So, yeah, that's my thoughts there. Armin asks if we can talk about Cousins and Neighbors. We could throw them in real quick. Dylan Cousins, Jake Neighbors. That's not how you spell Neighbors. There we go. Jake Neighbors has been really cold for a hot minute now. I honestly think he's below replacement level. I'm not interested, basically, in Jake Neighbors at the moment. Dylan Cousins, 3 assists his last 18 minutes, 100th in shots per 60, 32nd Corsi 4 per 60, 37th on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. I think Cousins probably deserves a little better than what he's gotten so far, but I'm getting more and more unconvinced of the ceiling with this player as we get more and more data on the player. What's your thoughts on these two here, Gugsy?
Yeah. No. Exact same sentiment with Neighbors. He's ice cold. That's a streamer spot. You shouldn't be holding him. Dylan Cousins, his analytics have been looking beautiful all year, to be honest. Playing even strength with Tuck and Zucker ain't too bad. It sucks that he's not getting that first power play deployment. That's
Mhm.
what hurts. He's playing well, but you just have been expecting a bit more from him as far as actually getting those points. But as you said, his advanced metrics look pretty damn good. He's getting good time on ice. It just sucks. I'm kind of hoping he gets traded to the Canucks, but that's probably not going to happen.
All right. CZ says Gug's so close on the Wallman estimate, not a wire pickup, but my last overall pick. There you
Ah,
have it.
close.
All right, we got to get into the list here. We've reached 54 minutes and we haven't even touched the list. Tony DeAngelo at the top. We've already talked a little bit about DeAngelo here. He's got 3 points in the 5 games he's played for New York so far. 25 minutes is pretty nice. 25th individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 17th on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. So he's at least bringing something to the table in that regard. Yeah, just rest of season, like, do you think, based on the early returns here, what's your confidence level that D'Angelo kind of hangs on to the spot for however long Dobson is out?
Yeah, that's tough. What's really tough with that question is Tony DeAngelo is a fucking dick, and he pisses off everyone he plays with. He pissed off the fucking KHL. You have to be a special breed of dick to do that. But you know what? Patrick Waugh has also been known to be a dick, so maybe they'll be best friends, and maybe
It's
Patrick Waugh
true.
will give him that deployment. He's looking good so far. Again, I hate this guy, but unfortunately, he's been playing good enough to warrant a spot on most of my fantasy rosters. And if Dobson's out, I would say that he safely has that deployment set in stone. What's his competition? Romanov? I don't really know. But
Hmm.
yeah. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I mean it's one of these cases where you're kind of never gonna know until it's happening. So like if you have him right now, you're hanging on at the moment. I don't think anybody's like going out trying to acquire him. Yeah, right now it's kind of working. He's got points in the last 2 games. He's getting 25 minutes a night. Like, there's no reason to do anything crazy here and move away. So you're just kind of hanging on and seeing how long it can go. Am I confident that he doesn't, piss off everybody in the organization and get himself booted by the time we can talk about this again next week? No, I am not confident that Tony DeAngelo is going to stick. But yeah, for as long as it's there, it seems to be working okay at the moment. I'm willing to hang on until it starts to go cold.
Unfortunately,
Connor,
with Barzal out, he's not.
yes.
He's gonna probably suck a bit more. But yeah.
Yeah, that could be a problem as well. Connor McMichael, he does have a goal and 4 points in his last 5. The deployment is improving. He has replaced Jacob Chikrin on the top power play unit as of the last game. We'll see if that holds, but obviously that's a better spot for him playing with PLD and Protas, as I mentioned earlier on that line, which is not a bad spot to be. 127th shots per 60, 191st individual scoring chances 4 per 60. But if he does start to rack up more power play time, those numbers should improve a little bit as well. Where's your temperature at on McMichael? Do you think that he can get back, maybe not, to exactly where he was at the start of the season when everything was going in for him, but do you think that he can be a useful piece moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. We know he's got the talent, and he's a big boy. Big boys are always loved by coaches. If he's on power play one, I'm interested. His analytics don't look great, but and his minutes, I'd like for that to get a bit higher. But being on power play one, even strength with Protas and PLD, it's not the worst. I just really want some more minutes. That's really my complaint.
Yeah. Yeah, I think until the minutes come up into more like the 18 plus range, he's, just
Yeah,
a streamer,
yeah,
not a guy that you have to hold. But
totally.
yeah, as long as he's on power play one, that's going to be a decent spot that you're going to be interested in for sure. Fantilli here, 2 goals, 5 points in his last 5 over 21 minutes. Like we mentioned, 39th in shots per 60 amongst all forwards last 5 games, 99th individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 155 Corsi 4 per 60, 170 on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. Fantilli's been on a bender ever since getting promoted to that top line there. Yeah, as we mentioned, losing Marchenko really does hurt, but I do think that Fantilli can be relatively useful. Anybody can be like, think about what we got out of Mikhail Granlund this year in San Jose, right? With the 21 a minute a night deployment. I think Fantilli can do something along those lines, even if everybody else just like falls away, withers away, gets Thanos snapped beside him, and Fantilli's the only guy left standing. I still think he can do something. It might not be point per game, but it still could be like 70-point pace rest of season. I think you're going to be pretty happy with that still, considering you just added him off the waiver wire. Anything more to add there, Guggsy? We kind of talked about
No,
him already. All
totally
right.
agree. I'm a little worried if you have any updates on Monahan? I haven't. Last I heard, he had a big setback.
Yeah,
But I
that
think it's
was.
Fantilli's spot for at least a bit of the long term now.
Yeah, I think Monahan. Yeah, mid to late March was Portsline's tweet today. So yeah, we got a long runway still there on Monahan. So yeah, wheels up for Fantilli at least in terms of the time on ice for sure. Matt Boldy, 4 assists, no goals his last five, just under 19 minutes average time on ice, 55th shots per 60, 96 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, in the 200s in the on ice numbers in these last 5 games. He's on a 28 goal, 70-point pace. On the season, like 15th shots per 60, 35th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, good numbers. But it is a tough spot for Boldy. It seems like I was thinking my take on Boldy going into the season was that I thought he could take another step this season and elevate himself into like a true star status, and he just hasn't quite done that this year. Like the underlying numbers are still good, but maybe he's not this guy who's going to convert. That being said, like 9.9% shooting percentage, he deserves a lot more goals than he scored so far on the year. But what do you think about Boldy with Cap out now? Are you still trying to aggressively acquire Boldy for playoff picture? What's your take on the player?
I've been trying to acquire this guy from everyone. I think I don't know. More people must be listening to Apples and Genos and listening to you talk the world of him. No one's selling. Even if I send a little message like, "Hey, it looks like Cap's out for the season. You should take my offer," but no one's biting. Yeah, that's that first month or so of the season, he was looking like a legit player. Like he was going crazy. I was really happy to have him on a lot of my teams. The talent's there. Yeah, it sucks that Kaprizov's not available right now, but once he's back, hopefully just in time for fantasy playoffs, I think more people will be happy that they drafted Boldy.
Yeah, I like that take. Go to the teammate there, Joel Eriksson Ek, and line mate Zuccarello, Eriksson Ek, Boldy were the lines in practice. Obviously, both on power play one as well. 2 goals, 3 points in the last five for Jeek. Just under 21 minutes. His ice time has come up in a big way. 98th shots per 60, but 257 in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 in the 200s in the on ice numbers as well there. Just a 19 goal, 48-point pace in the 39 games that Joel Eriksson Ek has played so far this season. I think he deserves better, but I don't think we should expect, especially with Kaprizov out. I think we're talking about a guy who should be in like the 55 to 60 point range for the basically the rest of the fantasy season. Do you see it any different?
No, I agree. Yeah, I think a lot of people expected the point production from last year, which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with your estimate there. Yeah.
All right. Moving along, then Roman Yossi next up here, just 1 assist in his last five, still 25 minutes a night, 20th in shots per 60, 10th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, second in both Corsi 4 per 60 and on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. I personally have no qualms about Roman Yossi. The Nashville Predators cannot put the puck in the net for whatever reason. I have to think like everything that I'm looking at says that the Predators will, figure it out at some point. They'll stop gripping the sticks extra tight or whatever is going on over there, and pucks will start to find their way in. We go through this, there are teams like the Winnipeg Jets who like they can't not score, and then there are teams like the Nashville Predators that can't buy a goal. Like we go through this every single year. It's just happens to be these teams this year, and the law of averages says that it should even out at least a little bit moving forward. So, yeah, if you have Yossi in one of my leagues and you're really fed up with what he's doing so far, please trade him to me because I would be super happy to take Yossi off you. I assume you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. He's a huge, maybe the biggest buy low right now. My biggest cope as a Yossi owner is that Nashville's going to turn it on during my fantasy playoffs. So let's go. Let's do it. You can regress all you want. You could be cold all you want. His advanced metrics look beautiful, and hopefully they pay off just in time for me to win the chip in fantasy playoffs.
I like that. Let's manifest that right here, right now. Moving along, Andrei Svechnikov did miss Saturday's game, but is in practice here on Monday. So seems like he should be good to go again. Has 4 points in his last four, just under 18 minutes average time on ice, 37 shots per 60, 40th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. What do we think? Obviously, we're seeing Svechnikov on power play 2. He's on the Taylor Hall Kakanyemi line. Obviously, not the greatest spot to be in, but what do you think about Svechnikov? It's been a really tough year if you've been rostering Svechnikov anywhere. 58-point pace for him on the season. That's not what Svechnikov managers were hoping for when they drafted him. What do you think he can do rest of season here?
Man, this is just one of those frustrating players that every year his advanced metrics look great, but his even strength deployment always sucks. And if he's not with the big boys on power play 1, you're just ripping your hair out. I don't know if it's a Rod Brindamore thing. You know what? Of course, it's a Rod Brindamore thing. But
Yeah.
a silly question. I feel like as soon as they switch coaches or he gets traded, this is going to be an all-star in the league. It's really tough to put my finger on it because, like, I mean, look at his advanced metrics. As you said, that looks pretty damn good. His minutes, 17 minutes, it's fine, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just too much shuffling for me. I hope eventually he gets with Rantanen on at least power play 1. It's tough. It's really tough. Do you have any shares of him?
No, I don't have Svechnikov anywhere. He's kind of always been a little bit more of a name brand player, it feels
Yeah,
like. I think he
I
was
agree.
like, and myself included, just based on some of the underlying metrics, I was pretty into him a few years back. And then it's kind of settled for me where I think he is one of these guys who's maybe a little bit less efficient than we want him to be. And then also, I've just tried to not be in on Carolina players in general just because of Rod Brindamore. And so those kind of two factors together have made me a little bit lower on a lot of guys like Svechnikov. And yeah, so far, obviously, this year I've been pretty happy to not have any shares there. Sticking with Carolina, Gostisbehere, I think we talked about, under 18 minutes average time on ice. Now we got a power play lineup where he's on the second power play unit. I do agree. I think he's going back on the top power play at some point here. I don't think Brent Burns is going to hold it over him. I don't think Jackson Blake holds the power play 1 over Svechnikov for a long period of time either. But, it could last for a bit. If you have to drop Gostisbehere, like if you can't afford to wait this out, like you need to stack up wins in your head-to-head league right now to make playoffs, like you have my permission. Go ahead, drop Gostisbehere. If you have the ability to wait it out, I do think there are better days ahead. So that's where I'm at on those guys. Let's talk about the Washington pairing here. Jacob Chikrin, John Carlson. I think this is a pretty interesting one, actually, because, yeah, we've been trying to figure out what's going on here all year long. Chikrin obviously has had a tremendous year and then gets promoted to the top power play, stays on it when Carlson comes back from injury, and they rock 2D up there. Now McMichael taking Chikrin's spot on the top power play unit. How do you see this shaking out rest of season, and what does it do to Chikrin's value moving forward?
Yeah, obviously his value is taking a dip if he's on power play 2. I don't know why you're messing with the good thing. I personally thought that John Carlson would be the first one moved off of that top power play over Chikrin because he's been playing solid. He's a talented young man. He's young. I feel like he'll be back on power play 1 because it's just been working. And last I checked, Washington's been on a bit of a skid. I gotta admit, I haven't been watching enough Washington Capitals games. Have you been taking a look at how that power play unit has been going?
I haven't. I vaguely remember coming across something that the power play unit had been sputtering for, 5 or 6 games in a row or something like that. So, yeah, but that's just something that's rattling around the back of my head. I don't have a tweet or anything to go off of on that one. So, but yeah, I think it does seem like the two defenseman power play is a little bit of a thing of the past, right? Like it's the exception rather than the rule for sure across the league. And so Yeah, I did think that there was at least a chance that Carlson would be the one moved off of just because Chikrin has had the year that he's had. But I think, you're looking at a team that's prioritizing Alex Ovechkin and his race to the goal title here. And John Carlson is like a staple there, right? Like, this is a name that's going in the rafters for the Washington Capitals when he hangs him up. So I think there's just a lot of like organizational inertia, if you want to call it that, around John Carlson, and he's just got that kind of swagger or whatever you want to call it in the
Yeah.
room. Like nobody's taking this away. So I think that might just be what we're dealing with here. I think Chikrin can still be relevant, but obviously, yeah, it's gonna shave off a good amount of his upside moving
Mm-hmm.
forward.
Yeah.
CG says you forgot to mention Chikrin's luscious locks. Yes, that is a terrible oversight on our part. It
Yeah.
won't happen
He's got a
again.
hell of a jaw too. Mm.
He does. Yeah, in the Yuri Coolidge tier for sure.
Yeah.
CG also asks, was offered Rantanen for Natchez and Meyer. Thoughts? Ooh, that's an interesting one for sure. I think we're seeing it. Blake and I talked about it a little bit. You go from 22 minutes a night for Rantanen in Colorado all the way back down to the Rod Brindamore tier in Carolina, and then the reverse happens for Natchez. And do they actually kind of end up evening out a little bit in terms of fantasy production? Like it's possible. I don't think it's quite that bad. Like I would still take Rantanen over Natchez for sure moving forward. But if you add Meyer into the equation here, Natchez and Meyer for Rantanen, and if you need that spot, like if you're not mad about replacing a guy that you didn't really want to have in your lineup anyway with a Meyer and his potential upside too, I think I might go with the Natchez Meyer side. What are you thinking here?
If it's a bangers cats, I'm pretty interested in Meyer Natchez.
Right.
Um, if it's a points league, I'd trust the talent of Rantanen more, even if his minutes are a bit lower. I feel like and the owner has to be telling Rod like, "Hey, give this guy some minutes, make him happy. We're trying to resign this guy." That's just my dumb guess. Really, it's just a guess, but
Sure.
you want to make this guy happy. You don't want to shelter him. You gave up the moon for him. You
Mhm.
give him some minutes. So yeah, Bangers League, I'm taking Natchez Meyer. Points League, I'd rather have Rantanen. Talent.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. So in the 4 games since he's gotten there, 1854, 1842, 1943, and then 2104 against LA in the latest game. So yeah, it could be a spot where he's getting that kind of deployment. It's worth noting he's averaging over 4 shots a game in those 4 games as well. So I think the underlying stuff is looking good for Rantanen in the early going here. So yeah, I tend to agree with trying to side with the talent there. But yeah, to get those two in the spots that they're in, and a banger's cats, like you're saying, yeah, I can see it for sure. It's definitely, this is the kind of package it's going to take to unseat Rantanen from me for sure. Michael asked about Pius Suter. Is he worth a look? Did Pius Suter get a bump in deployment with the trade?
I don't
I'm not.
think he's been hot lately, but I don't think
Okay.
he's on power
He
play with
played with
them.
Sherwood and O'Connor in the last game. Yeah. Short answer, not
No,
interested personally.
no.
Eric, yeah, Eric asks, how's Rantanen looking? 17 shots in his 4 games, significant time on ice drop. Yeah, we can look just at the underlying metrics. I'm pretty sure they're going to look good with those shots numbers. Yeah, 13th shots per 60, 12th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Yeah, I think it is a hit. Like, there's no way it's not a hit to come to Carolina. But yeah, he can still be 90 to 100 points as a point pace rest of season pretty comfortably in my eyes. Last one here before we finish out the list. Bangers Cats League with Pims. Who do you like? Hyman versus Boldy. That's a tough one. Yeah, that is a tough one, isn't it? That is tougher considering the playoff schedules at work here too, if that's in consideration for you. I'll pitch it to you, Guggen. What are you thinking first glance here?
I think the better player is Hyman, especially with the talent around him. Um, yeah, his individual scoring chances for is second in the league. Like he's been a bit hot and cold this year, but personally, I prefer Hyman. If I think this is one of those situations where you should go to your Yahoo calendar or whatever it's called, go to your playoff weeks and see if Boldy's terrific schedule is worth choosing him over Hyman. Because if the games Hyman's is playing, you have a bunch of people on your bench. I think that's the the way to think about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like what Hyman's been doing as of late. It is a consideration with the schedule because Minnesota does play 2 more games in those 3 weeks and has 6 more off nights. So that's not insignificant in terms of what it can do to open up your roster and allow you to make different moves here and there. Um, yeah, I think it's right on the line. To be honest with you, I don't know that I would trade one for the other. If I had one, I might just stick with them. I don't know if I'd be like feeling like this is the trade that's going to do it for me. Maybe if you're looking ahead and you're realizing that a lot of your guys don't have a lot of off nights, like your core guys don't have a lot of off nights in that time frame, and you're like, man, I actually really need to get some off nights on this roster to make this work, then maybe that's a spot where you do actually go out and get Boldy because you just need to open up that space on your roster and get some of those off nights kind of locked in. So maybe I could see that if that's something that you're looking at if you're setting your lineups in advance. Yeah, that's just one factor that you could look at as well. Chichi Mini was curious how McDavid's numbers look. Only 3 games because of the suspension there that show up in the last little bit, but yeah, they look pretty good. First in the league in the on ice stuff. Just about exactly what you'd expect there. All right, we got to finish out the list here. Dylan Holloway, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in his last 5, just under 18 minutes. He had really good underlying numbers for a while. They have gone away and gone away quickly here. I think a good chunk of this is honestly that split power play situation in St. Louis. I don't love it. Jim Montgomery did a little bit of this in Boston, and it was a terrible situation for everyone involved there as well. Yeah, I don't know what his obsession with that is, but yeah, I think that Holloway is just streamer level until we see a little bit more of a emphasis on a true power play unit. What do you think?
Yeah, totally agreed. Streamer level. Yeah, don't feel shame for dropping him. He had his hot streak. I think that's over.
All right. Mika Zibanejad obviously had a big game there on Sunday. Almost cost me a matchup by doing so. 4 points his last 5 now. 18 and a half minutes average time on ice. The underlying numbers actually looking good for Mika Zibanejad in the last little bit. What's going on here? Is
JT
this
Miller is what's going on, baby.
is it just the JT Miller effect? Yeah. Do we have new life for Mika Zibanejad with JT Miller in town? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, what's cool is he's been playing on Miller's wing, so
Yeah.
not having the responsibility of being a center, he's never had a good two-way game to begin with. So maybe that's just letting him open up a little bit. I'm actually surprised he's keeping his first power play. I thought as soon as Miller came that he'd be bumped off, but it was Trocheck, our boy Vinny Tro, friend of the show, is now
Yeah.
bumped off that power play. So I've actually found Zibanejad on the wire. People hate him. The buy low opportunity might still be floating, but the window's closing. You might want to send some offers, folks. Mika Zibanejad might wake up right now thanks to JT Miller. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I like to take about it being a little bit because of the winger spot there. Like, I think Zibanejad was like just completely floundering, and this might just be the thing to like take the emphasis off him enough where he can just play hockey, like forget about the rest and play hockey.
It's pure
Um,
defense.
yeah, it might just be what he needed at this point. I'm still like not super high on the player. I don't think the player is tremendous, but I mean, as long as it's Panarin, Miller's Zibanejad as a line, like that's gonna get it done for you could put anybody in Zibanejad's spot there, and I'd be excited about it. So, as long as that's a thing, I'm going to be excited about it. Do I think that necessarily lasts for the rest of the season? No, but I do think that he is kind of a staple on the power play. So, that part at least, I do have some trust in that he's going to remain there. Carter Verhaeghe finally has awoken. 4 goals, 7 points in his last 5. I think it was a 5 point game, right? There on Sunday. In the end, it was huge, huge game there. I think he's now practicing. I don't know if he played in that game. I probably should have looked at this before I started talking about it. That's some true podcasting work for you there. But Verhaeghe Guy I've been talking about as a buy low for a hot minute, and it's finally coming true. 17 shots per 60, 14th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. It's all there under the hood. On the season, he's 6th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. He's in single digits in the on ice numbers. Like, everything looks terrific for Verhaeghe on the season. The last little bit, yeah, my baseline expectation is that Verhaeghe gets this done and is at a minimum a 70-point pace player rest of season. You got any hotter takes than that, Guggen?
No, I totally agree. Would like a bit more time on ice, but the dude is so talented. I think he's finally waking up. I think the guy is gonna be much better in the later this final half of the season than he was in the first half. So hold on, be happy. It's all good.
Yeah. Morgan Frost here had a goal there for Calgary on that power play. I like the spot for Morgan Frost. I think he very clearly needed to get away from John Tortorella, and it looks like they're going to at least give him a chance in Calgary to figure out if there's something here. Like, Morgan Frost was a first-round pick back in the day. He's got 18 minutes in this game. He had 5 shots. Like, good stuff in the early going. It is very early going. He's nothing more than a streamer at this point. But yeah, could he develop into something a little bit more and be one of those guys who actually does see a big boost from an end of season trade or a back half trade? I think that's within the realm of possibility. Kent Johnson, we already talked about. Thatcher Demko, we already talked about. Steven Stamkos, Blake and I talked about yesterday, but I'm interested to get your take on Steven Stamkos. Just 1 goal in his last 5, but the on ice numbers still look pretty good. He's been playing center with Forsberg and Marchessault there on the top line. What do you think about Stamkos and what he might be able to do over the rest of the season?
Yeah, his analytics look great. Nashville as a whole should be getting much more points than they're getting. It's just you made a good point on the show with Blake. The dude's playing center. He might just not be a center anymore. And if you put him, I bet if they put him on the wing, just like Zibanejad, let somebody else worry about the two-way game. Let somebody else worry about the defense that he could really pop off. But as far as the fancy stats go, I mean, I think he's going to be absolutely fine. But yeah, it's tough. I think he's much more suited to be on the wing. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'd hold, and I personally would buy low. I'm trying to buy low everywhere I can, but it seems like everyone knows his playoff schedule is good, and
Yeah.
the draft capital people invested on Stamkos this year. Some people,
Yep.
wasting a 4th rounder. It's hard to give that up for scraps. But if you can buy low, I would do it. Maybe get a package going. Doesn't have to be a 1-for-1. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. Alex Laferriere, 2 assists in his last 5, 17 minutes, 80th in shots per 60, 16th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Don't mind that number there. What do you think about Laferriere? He's been playing on the Fiala Byfield line, which has been one of 2 lines kind of getting a little bit more prioritized, at least at even strength as of late. As Kempe and Kopitar have gone cold, they've been getting a little bit less minutes, which is interesting. And you did get a look on the top power play over Byfield in the last game against Carolina. I don't know if that's going to continue necessarily moving forward, but it's at least a data point there. What's your temperature on Laferriere? He had like a really nice start to the season, right? And everybody's pretty excited about him. Underlying metrics look good. Then he went quiet for a long time. Now it seems like he's heating back up again, at least under the hood. Do you think that we can get back to a point where he's at least a little bit more than a streamer?
Yeah, totally. If he's on power play 1 with metrics that look like that, I'm very interested in that. Quentin Byfield took his deployment, took that power play 1 spot, and honestly, he just wasn't doing it for me. At least not fantasy wise. Quentin's a great player in real life, big body. Every coach loves that kind of hockey player. But as far as fantasy is concerned, if Alex Laferriere is on power play 1, I'd want him on my team. I'd take him as a hold, depending on what's on your wire to replace him with. Yeah, he's looking good, and yeah, in the beginning of the year, he was on fire. He was so good, so I think he has a high ceiling.
Yeah. All right, last one here. We talked about Cam Fowler and how he's not doing much of late. Justin Falk also not doing much of late, but a little bit more. 2 assists in his last 5. Less minutes overall, 20 minutes average time on ice there. He's got a little bit better underlying metrics, and he's historically been a little bit more of a bangers guy. Not as good this year as he has in years past, but What do you think about Falk? Who would you take between Falk and Fowler if you're deciding on that? Fourth or 50 or something like that. Do you have any reason to go one way or the other here?
Yeah, that's tough. With my bangers cats preference, so many of my leagues are bangers cats. I would go Justin Falk, but as you were saying, like I haven't been impressed with his bangs as much as I have been in years past. I guess he's getting old. He is getting up there. He's got a lot of kilometers on him, or mileage if you're an American. Um, but yeah, that split power play is just sucks. Who do you have more trust in? A power play with your defenseman playing with like Jordan Kyrou, then you go with Falk. If you have more trust with your defenseman playing with Robert Thomas and Buchnevich, then you go with Fowler. I think it's a bit of a personal preference here. I I, I prefer Falk just because he bangs a bit more than Fowler, but you're gonna lose either way, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the correct answer. The correct answer is neither, but if you have to pick one, I think I would still pick Falk just because there feels like a little bit more of a likelihood that he does something in any given day. But yeah, I think the correct answer is neither there. We'll close it out with a few more comments here. Let's start it here. Oh yeah, CG was asking Forslinger Riley. We went with Riley there at the end of it. G Horn, would you trade Kaprizov or Heischer if playoffs is March 10th? Trade for Kaprizov or Heischer, sorry, if playoffs is March 10th. I don't mind trading for either of these guys. It is like we've been saying kind of all night. It is kind of like our risk tolerance thing. Like, what do you actually have to give up to get these guys? Is it going to be too much? It's very possible that you're gonna just get to a point where you're like, yeah, you're just asking for way too much, and I can't get there. So, like that's probably how it goes, but it's worth checking at least that somebody could be super desperate out there, right? Depends on who that manager is. So definitely check that out. Chris was wondering if Zibby would get dual eligibility. That'd be pretty interesting
I hope so.
if he gets some winger eligibility there. Rahagi was top line, top power play. G Horn confirming there. Duresh, thoughts on Raquel? Underlying numbers look bad, but he's been killing it all season. This is for you, man. Go ahead.
Let me. I haven't thought about Raquel in a hot minute. Let me just look at this young man. Yeah, he's getting the deployment. I apologize. I really don't think about Ricard Raquel enough. Let me just put him into our sheet here.
Yeah, I got him here, row 24.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that's actually better than I thought. His scoring chances for 65th in the league. Yeah, this actually looks better than I thought. Looks like he's just cold for goals, which is gonna positively regress. That's not a bad not too bad for a streamer level player that maybe a bit of a hold that gets a 21 minutes a night. That's you know what? I might need to look at my phone and make a quick ad or two. But yeah, what do you think about Raquel?
Yeah, I think Raquel has probably been snapped up in most places, honestly. I think he's well over 50% now.
Yeah.
71% now on Yahoo. Yeah. 35 goals, 70-point pace on the season. I think, yeah, he was running really hot on the shooting percentage before. Now he's down to 16.8. That's still probably kind of hot. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, 21-minute treatment alongside Crosby, you can be in many worse places than that for fantasy production. So yeah, I think probably he's been running a little bit hot to get to this 35 goal, 70-point pace, but 25 to 30 goal, 60 to 65-point pace rest of the season. Yeah, I don't think that's too terrible in my eyes. Giorn also asked, Cats Banger League thoughts on Thomas rest of the season. Would you trade him for Zibanejad? That is probably about the range, right?
Yeah. I
Both
really
these
hate
guys.
Thomas in a bangers league. I hate how little he shoots. I hate how little he bangs. He's a very efficient player, and for my bangers preferences, I hate efficient players. Unless you're
Mhm.
Leon Draisaitl, I want my bangers players to shoot the puck a ton. I want them to throw the body, and Thomas doesn't really do that. Zibanejad, he has more of a bangers edge to him, and if he gets that winger eligibility, I'd take Zibanejad all day.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely worth checking out. Like Thomas only has 7 hits. I mean, Zibanejad has 18, so it's not like you're gaining a huge edge in terms of the hits. Zibanejad does have more shots. The blocks are actually the exact same, 33 for each of them. Yeah, I don't think you're getting a major edge one way or the other. Thomas, I think I would take Thomas just in sheer points, like points scored, power play points. Probably power play points. Zibanejad might have them actually. That'd be pretty tight, especially with this split unit. Thomas has been good there in the past, but Zibanejad with Miller in town, maybe. Yeah, I think I would go Zibanejad as well. You talked me
Ups-
into it.
yeah, it's upside with Miller. It's a bit of upside, and I'd be
Yeah,
willing to take that gamble with Zibanejad right now.
yeah. Jordan asks, would you stream LaFerrier over Byfield now that he's on power play one? Yeah, actually, I think I would, assuming that the positional eligibility doesn't mean anything to you. I would take LaFerrier over Byfield at the moment.
Yep.
WebPG, what's up with Letang? Is he worth holding rest of the season? I could rotate into holding Banger D-Man instead. Throw Chris Letang in here, but basically my stance on Letang this year has been that he is just kind of like one of these rotational guys. Nice underlying numbers here in the last little bit. Can't deny that. Fifth individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 is the highest number there. That's a nice number. 23 minutes still, but still they're messing around with these power play units. Grizzlick is getting all this power play time for no apparent reason. Yeah, I think he's on a 12 goal, 35 point pace on the season. He might do a little bit better than that, but like 40 point pace is probably what Chris Letang is as a defenseman rest of season. And so, yeah, he's going to be a 40 point defenseman with some bangers, like probably usable, but not necessarily, helping you out too much. What do you think?
Yeah, Letang's a solid banger, but his deployment, I don't get why Grizzlick is getting that top power play deployment, especially over Letang. In my opinion, he's a guy you stream for the schedule even in a bangers league because like that spot you could just utilize more efficiently, streaming other players in and out. Unless you're in like a 16-man league, of course. I'm
Right.
talking about like a 10-man, maybe even 12-10 league. You could likely find a better replacement for Letang and just treat that spot as a streamer.
Yeah, I like that. Duresh was saying I wanted Nate and knows Nate's feelings on Raquel, wanted another opinion. CG is mentally quoting Blake, Raquel, doing that for himself. Love that. Duresh said thanks. G Horton, Thomas so slow on power play. True. Also saying thanks there. CG says, sweet hoodie, Nate. Where'd you get it? This one here, Toronto Scepters. Oh yeah, yeah. No, this was it was a Christmas gift actually. Got some sweet PWHL merch. Scepters are coming on as of late. Good stuff. The Maple Leafs can only let me down so much. I had to add another team to the mix. PWHL joining the scene has made that pretty easy. And yeah, went to a game earlier this year. It was a great atmosphere, like way better than Leafs atmospheres for a regular season game at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. Like kind of a bit more of an intimate setting. Like
Yeah.
everybody there was loving life. So,
I'm jealous.
yeah,
We need one of those. We need them to expand to Vancouver. I'm sick of watching the Canucks lose. I'm sick of paying $200 to watch the Canucks lose.
right.
And that's the nice thing about like the PWHL. Like since tickets don't cost an arm and a leg, like you got real fans. You don't got a bunch of suits. You don't got a bunch
Yeah,
of like people that won tickets from their boss. You got actual fans that are rowdy, that are having a good time. You can afford to bring your two kids and your cousin or whatever. I
right.
love that atmosphere. I've been going to so many Giants games where that's
Yeah.
such a nice night out. I love it. I hope the WHL gets all the success so we can get a taste of that here on the West Coast.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. They're definitely, testing the markets with these games out there. They did one Vancouver, Denver, Edmonton is the next one I think that's coming up. So hopefully they get some of that out there. All right, we got one last question here, and then we will finally get out of here. We ran a long shift here, but we had to get through as much as we could for the people. Sorokin versus Gustafson, rest of season in a Cats League. Gugsy, bring us home.
I don't trust the Islanders, man. I don't trust them. I with goalies, I think you have a similar opinion. It's you're drafting the team in front of the goalies, and I prefer to have the Minnesota Wild defense in front of my goalie than the New York Islanders defense. Islanders have this like people think that they're still that Barry Trotz trap team, but they're not. And Sorokin, he's been fine, but that's because he's an amazing goalie and Like, how many times is he getting left to dry here? Minnesota, their defense has been a bit injured. Their Brodin is back, as you were
Yeah.
saying in the last episode. I think Gustafsson's the safer bet. He has the better playoff schedule, if that matters on goalies. Usually, it's not as big of a deal for goalies as it is for skaters, but I think Gustafsson for sure. Even if Sorokin gets the name brand value there.
Yep. I think I would lean the same way as well, but yeah, it is goalies, so this could all change in another week for sure. We did get one in under the wire. Dirty Deeds. Hey guys, we dropped Laine for Harley.
Oh
That's going to
yeah.
be a yes from
Oh
me.
yeah, definitely. You don't even have to ask.
Pretty easy. CG says long show. What the folk? I see what you did there.
Ah,
Leg Effect says, just tuning in. It's 9:37 marathon show. It was a marathon show, but that is going to be all that we've got for the episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band there for supplying music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.